video in this series I'm doing about coaches' attitudes. In NLP language, we talk about it as presuppositions. I like to talk about it as attitudes that if we as leaders and sports coaches take on, it will make the communication and relationships that we build up with our teams much more easier and with our individual athletes. In the first video, I spoke about the map is not the territory. Go back and watch that one if you've missed it, because I will build on them on the subsequent videos as well. So today's video is about people respond according to their maps. Now, just quickly backtrack, the map is not a person's territory. It is about how we perceive things in our environment different, how we perceive situations different. That's the main basis of that. Now, with our map as our territory, and each individual has a different map as their territory, we perceive the world differently, and based on that, that will determine or control both our perceptions and the actions that we will take eventually because of that. Now, these maps are made up of beliefs, its values, its attitudes, its language that we use and language that we learn, memories and other filters that we build up. You can also see when I talk about the map, also see it as the filter through which you view the world, or every single person view the world. You know, it's almost like sorry, you almost get these, when we were kids, you would get these glasses in a lucky packet that are red and blue, and when you put it on, you'll see the world red, you'll see the world yellow, you'll see the world blue, and that is essentially what that means, is that every single person will have a map that they perceive the world through differently, or a filter through which they would perceive the world. Within our consciousness, these maps and how we perceive the world around us, and of course, we take that in through our five senses. I've spoke about that in previous videos. You can almost look at these maps as a filter for our thoughts as well, because that's essentially the thing that remains in your mind, right? In your brain. So you have this experience, you have a memory, and you have thoughts about that. So once we have these thoughts and we have we've put together a map of a particular experience and how we perceive it, we then attach a meaning to that, and then emotions and feelings come and are created, and that will then drive behavior. Now, you can say then that the perceptions of the world almost projects into our actions. It drives our actions, it drives our behavior. Now, one thing that you want to keep in mind is that when we want to make changes, especially habitual changes, let's say a person has a bad habit, an athlete has a bad habit of waking up in the morning or waking up when the alarm clock goes off, many people try to put schedules in place, or they try to put actions in place to drive that behavior. It can be accurate for a small handful of people. It will be accurate. That could, for a small number of people, drive behavior and a complete lifestyle change if they continue with it. But it seldom drives behavior change or lifestyle change for everybody. And for the majority of people, where you want to start that change, a lifestyle change, or whatever change it is, especially when you think about things like nutrition, sleep, all of the lifestyle type habits that athletes need to take on to be a better athlete, where you want to start to make that change is in that area of how they perceive their memories, how they perceive the world. And I'm not going to go into detail about that, but and then what is the meaning that attached to that, and that's sort of what then eventually will drive the behavior. You want to make changes in that area before you get to the behavior. I have done a workshop in mental performance for athletes about 2 years, more or less about 2 years ago. So you can go back and check that, because there I explained this whole cognitive process in much more depth and detail. So a person's perceptions, thoughts and emotions cannot change unless they change that internal map that they have about the world around them and their memories and everything they've perceived up until now. Now, there's a good way. So remember that when you have communication with an athlete, remember also that when you have communication with a sports team or other coaching colleagues, that their perception of the situation that has just happened will be completely different than the perception you have. It's just our nature, it's how it is. No single two people is going to perceive the same situation exactly the same. So that's the first thing you need to keep in mind. I was once on, I think on Heathrow Airport, I read a quote that said, difference in opinion is a opinion from a place where you are not. So in other words, when we have a difference in opinion, I'm not at the same place where you are, where you're having that opinion, if that makes sense. So it was a pretty good quote to sort of make me realize that I will never be in the exact same position than the other person when we do have a difference in opinion. So perceptual positions. This is, you can go and look it up, research it a little bit more if you want to. There's a ton of information on the internet available, but this is an extremely good, simple exercise that you as a coach can do to make sure that the communication based on the perceptions that are different and based on people's maps that are different, that the communication can continue to flow, and that the group coherency can continue to flow, collaboration can continue to flow. So that's the main aim here. We've heard many times that people tell you, oh, just put yourself in the other person's shoes. Now, just hearing that is not enough. So you want to practice that in such a way that when you are speaking with an individual, that you can immediately switch to that mindset of understanding where that person, truly understanding where that person is coming from. So a great way to do that is to, if there's been a recent situation, let's say you and an athlete, or you and a team, or you and a colleague, a coaching colleague, has had an altercation or had a difference in opinion about something, what you can do is just take 5 minutes, relax, turn inwards. You can close your eyes preferably, because it will eliminate any distractions around you. And literally imagine yourself stepping out, see that person in front of you, stepping out of your shoes, walk back and go around and step into the other person's shoes. And then you see what the other person is seeing. In other words, now you are like literally standing in front of yourself, and then ask yourself the question, what am I seeing? What am I hearing? And what am I experiencing from, I want to say, this other person, which is essentially you? So that is what it means to literally put yourself in the other person's shoe. That is what we would call second position. First position is obviously you are experiencing you have the experience from yourself, from your own position where you are standing with this other person or team or individual. Second position is where you literally imagine that you are stepping around, going around the other person, stepping into their shoes. Ask yourself, what are you seeing, what are you hearing, and what are you experiencing when you look at that person? And then there's also what we call a third position, where you almost dissociate yourself from what's happening here. It's like the fly on the wall, right? But you have to do it exactly the same way. One way you can do it is imagine you see yourself and the other person. You're sitting in a movie theater, you see this conversation or whatever altercation, whatever it was, you see this on the movie screen. You're sitting in the audience, you see this movie playing off, and then you ask yourself, okay, what am I seeing here? What am I experiencing and what am I hearing? And do it from both parties. So like when you're looking at yourself, ask those 3 questions. Then you look at what the other person is responding and what they are saying and how's the communication, how's the body language. And you ask yourself the same questions. What am I seeing here? What am I experiencing? And what am I feeling and hearing? And that's a very good exercise to literally take yourself out of the situation, to become more to become more objective when it comes to communication and things like that. So practice that is a very good exercise that you can teach your athletes do not teach it to children. I would not suggest you try and teach it to children in primary school, because you do not want to teach a child in primary school to dissociate from their feelings, because they would not necessarily grasp why we want to do this exercise and how we're doing this, because they're still cognitively developing. But as you get working with older kids, 17 years, 18 years, adults, young adults, of course, you can teach them this exercise. This is also a good exercise to teach them to journal about the things that they are, the feedback they're getting from this exercise. To journal that and jot that down will also be helpful for them. So practice this. Let me know how it's going, and I'll see you in the next video. And remember to subscribe to my channel if you find this useful. I also do present monthly workshops where you can come in, join for free. It's just education that I'm giving to sports coaches. Athletes are more than welcome to join, because many times athletes end up being a sports coach themselves, or they are a mentor to younger people or younger athletes. So feel free to join, and I'll leave a link in the description of the video for the next workshop. Have a great day. Bye.